for being here today and testifying. I know you've got a lot going on. I've really just got a couple questions that I think are important. Nearly 87% of Arkansas communities depend exclusively on trucks to move their goods. Since the vast majority of my constituents rely on, and this is true of so many other areas throughout the country, efficient trucking operations, I'm really interested in the Department of Transportation's long-term plan to build our truck parking capacity. We've heard repeatedly from representatives of the trucking industry that the nationwide shortage of truck parking capacity is a key driver of supply chain inefficiency. In fact, for every 11 drivers, there's only one truck parking space. So, Mr. Secretary, would the establishment of a competitive grant program for truck parking projects better equip DOT in the states to address the longstanding challenge? And if so, or if not, how can we help you accomplish, something that really is a major problem now and is probably only going to get worse in the future?
Well, I completely agree with the importance of this issue. When you talk with truck drivers, it's one of the first things that they'll raise. And it's not just a matter of convenience, it's really a matter of safety.
Right.
It means that as a driver is on their route, they see that they're getting close to the limit of their hours of service. They're faced with a choice either to stop short and lose income, if there's even a space near them, or to park in a place that could be unsafe.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm told that literally drivers will drive around for an hour, hour and a half, trying to find a spot before their hours run out, so they'll stay within the
That's right.
the time frame.
Or face being compelled to park on those ramps, which
Exactly.
is not safe for them or for other drivers. So in terms of a dedicated program, we'd welcome a dialogue on that. I do want to make sure in the meantime you're aware that we're using the funding we do have for these purposes. We were able, through our discretionary programs, I believe infra, but I will double check with the course, to fund both Florida and Tennessee working on projects to do just this, to add truck parking spaces. And I would add there's some interesting technologies developing that can help drivers know in real time where some of those spaces might be available to avoid just that scenario that you're describing of circling around, which benefits no one. So we'll continue to consider this a valid use in any discretionary program where it's permitted under statute. Secondly, we have taken steps to urge state DOTs to recognize that this is often an eligible use of their federal aid highway formula funds. We would love to see more of those funds going to that purpose. But third, if there's an opportunity to investigate dedicated programming, I certainly recognize that would meet a need.
Well, we would really like to work with you, and I think I can speak for the committee in the sense that this is, such an important area. To go forward and help you with the projects that you've got going now, but also try and figure out a future way to perhaps, help alleviate this.
Likewise.
The other thing is the Appropriations Committee has been diligent over the past several years in funding the FAA Air Traffic Organization at or near the requested levels in the President's budget. With that said, I've heard a lot of aviation stakeholders mention the funding is simply not enough to meet the air traffic goals. And I note that your budget request included a $1.4 billion increase for FAA, with most of that directed towards air traffic. Can you explain where the increased funding will be directed if Congress funds the air traffic request and the need for that?
Certainly. We see more pressure than ever on the national aviation system. Some of that comes from by way of economic good news, which is the increased demand and interest in flight. But we have to make sure the systems are keeping pace. And even if it weren't for that surge, there are ongoing needs that we need to make sure that the FAA can meet. So part of what you're seeing in the increase is an $800 million increase for the operations side. That includes air traffic control hiring and training. We had 1,500 controllers hired in fiscal year 23, and we'll need the funding to continue training them, and then project another 1,800 for fiscal 24. And even allowing for attrition, that represents an expansion in workforce, which I think is very much needed right now. There's also funding for the sustainment of the national airspace system. That is the kind of field and software maintenance programs, telecommunication systems, trying to reduce the risk of system outages. And then a number of other proposals that are really about getting ready for the future or addressing requirements to the Aircraft Certification Reform Act. There's also a $600 million increase in the facilities and equipment side. And I want to point in particular to $150 million for modernization, which would allow us to move forward faster on things like the NOTAMs modernization that started in 2019, and phase 1 is set to be done in 2025. Obviously, we're very interested in how to accelerate that, as well as the telecommunications infrastructure, which is running on technology that telecom operators tell us they will not support indefinitely. And so we really need to make that change from TDM, so-called technology, to Internet Protocol technology, just to give you a flavor of some of the steps. The last thing I'd point to is research and development, which is an important area always for FAA. And of course, this sits alongside the Airport Improvement Program funds on FAA's books, which allow us to benefit airports of all sizes across the country.
Right. Well, thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Manchin.
Thank you, Secretary. I appreciate it very much. First,